On Friday, President Donald Trump signed an executive order fully militarizing our southern border and authorizing the Air Force to shoot down civilian airliners with Muslim passengers on board. At least, that's the story if you get it from the left, or even from certain segments of the right wing. Instead, though, how about we chill out with some actual facts and figures? I know it's the internet, but I hope we can do this. I'm Steve Green with Bill Whittle and Scott Ott, and this is The Right Angle on President Trump's so-called Muslim ban. And of course, this segment is brought to you by the paying members of BillWhittle.com. All right, gents, over at National Review, where, they aren't exactly known for being on board the Trump train, David French did a great job of setting the record straight that there is no ban. He wrote, quote, "First, the order temporarily halts refugee admissions for 120 days to improve the vetting process, then caps refugee admissions at 50,000 per year. Before 2016, when Obama dramatically ramped up refugee admissions, Trump's 50,000 stands roughly in between a typical year of refugee admissions in George W. Bush's 2 terms and a typical year in Obama's 2 terms. Folks, that is less than half of where the ceiling was in the mid-90s and about a fifth of where it was as recently as 1980. These are not scary numbers. But that didn't stop Democrat Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer from saying, "Tears are running down the cheeks of the Statue of Liberty tonight." This is the same Chuck Schumer who said in 2015 that a refugee pause may be necessary. And of course, history didn't stop Democrat House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi from claiming this administration has mistaken cruelty for strength and prejudice for strategy. Bill, what do you call this chasm between David French's real-world numbers and the Democrats' ginned-up response?
I call it excellent and ongoing evidence of how delusional these people actually are. And we never had a chance really to see that in all of its full blossom because their policies were being inflicted upon us, and we didn't get to hear them actually talk about what was going on behind the scenes. Yes, Steve, that's exactly right. It's a Muslim ban. It's a ban on Muslims. It's the worst thing in the history of the country. And he's Cheeto Hitler. And as you say, shoot first and ask questions later. Now, to be fair, there were some real, I think, some really unforced errors in terms of stories of people, with resident alien cards, with green cards, being detained for a long time, and apparently in some cases or many cases they were being pressured to renounce their resident alien status. I don't know if that's true. I read it in the LA Times, so it's probably fake news. Yeah. But in any event, if that kind of thing is true, then that's just the kind of unforced error that gives these people ammunition. However, as you say, the actual truth of the executive order is actually pretty simple. Obama blocked Iraqi refugees for 6 months in, was it 2013, somewhere in there? And then in 2016, it was the Obama administration that identified these exact same countries as potential national security threats. So all Trump did was apply the ban or the halt, I guess, that Obama applied in 2013 to the countries that he named in 2016. Therefore, the world is ending. I think you can run all of this by the standard of his administration. 100,000 bombs dropped in 7 countries. All 7 of these acts of actual warfare, none of them approved by Congress, none of them approved by the United Nations, in contrast to that wild cowboy George Bush who took 2 years to do both of those things.
Yeah, and folks, a lot of people aren't aware of this, but Cheeto Hitler has a hidden track on the Repo Man soundtrack. You should check that out. All right, Lyman Stone reported for The Federalist. This is another quote. "Most Muslims will be unaffected. The vast majority of Muslims in Muslim countries are in Africa, South Asia, Southeast Asia, or Central Asia. Within the Middle East, large countries like Egypt, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia were not restricted." End quote. The temporary restrictions, in other words, are only on people traveling to the United States from a list of 7 Middle Eastern war zones and terrorist havens that, as Bill indicated, a list created by the Obama administration. But that didn't stop David Brooks from writing, "The Trump administration is not a Republican administration, it is an ethnic nationalist administration, and that Trump's incompetence is a threat to all around him." And you know what? If you spend any time on Twitter, Brooks is on the sane side of what's being said. If this is an ethnic nationalist administration, then why is it already granted hardship waivers to 872 Muslim refugees? But you know what? Even supporters admit that the rollout was not handled well. President Trump cut out senior Republican leadership on the Hill, which resulted in a huge embarrassment and then reversal on green cards. Trump even cut out his own Secretary of State, his own SecDef, and his own Homeland Security chief. Cut them all out of the loop. So, Scott, is this Trump enabling even his most unhinged critics with sloppy execution of a reasonable policy? Or do you think the insanity is just a feature of the opposition in 2017?
Yes. No, I think that I am hesitant to jump on board with the reports of who the Trump administration spoke with and who they did not speak with, or whom. I'm really reluctant to begin judging the administration and saying, well, you didn't talk to so-and-so, when I have no idea who they really talked to. And the public spokesperson, Sean Spicer, as well as Reince Priebus, the chief of staff, have both said, yes, we talked to everybody that needed to be talked with about. So I'm not going to go after him on that basis. What Bill says, I think, is true. I think that there were some rollout issues, and we'll try to address what might have been done better in the episode of Right Angle that I host this week. But I think that the Democrats, they speaking of unforced errors, are making major mistakes as they go into this because there are legitimate things that they could say about this. But instead, they choose to leap into sort of uncharted territory of stuff that's not really even happening and get all lathered up about that. And then, how easy is it now to go on the internet and pull up the quote from Senator Chuck Schumer when he was talking about how great it was that President Obama was keeping us safe by blocking immigration from certain countries. So these people are getting tripped up by their own foolishness, by their own knee-jerk reactions, and they're being poorly served by their staffs. And by the way, my understanding was, even though President Obama did jack the ceiling for refugee immigrants up above 100,000, I think in his best year, so to speak, he still only had about 50,000 came in. So this idea that somehow, President Trump's executive order is going to be a massive cutback on immigration is just not so.
No, it really isn't. All right, folks, to get to the chase on this, here's what the Constitution has to say about immigration. Article 1, Section 8 grants Congress the power to establish a uniform rule of naturalization. That's it. Although, if you want to stretch it, Article 4, Section 4 requires the federal government to protect each state against invasion. There's nothing about refugees or countries of origin or total numbers or anything else. Immigration, in other words, is subject to the will of the people expressed through Congress and executed by the president and, of course, in compliance with due process and other constitutional protections. And what we have is a Republican Congress and a Republican president elected in no small part to stop illegal immigration and to increase vetting on immigrants and refugees from terrorist hotspots. Now, elections, as one president said just 8 years ago, have consequences. So if Democrats, if they want to change the policy, well, they better start to learn how to win again. That's the Right Angle on Immigration. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.